Boom, we are live. Thank you, Drew. Before I even had to ask it, go retweet it. Retweet. Hello to the two viewers on here right now.
Hello, viewers. Two viewers.
Two people just hanging out.
Oh, no, we got some more. We're getting some traction.
4 viewers, they're just hanging out.
It's growing exponentially.
Welcome. Hello.
Yeah.
Did I scare you there, Drew?
Yeah, it's abrupt.
Whoa. All right. WGT. What, AJ?
I said everything in life is abrupt.
Yeah.
Okay. WGT Golf. It's the best game / app on your phone. It's the most popular golf game in the world, and it is also the official gaming partner of DNVR. If you haven't downloaded yet and played against this DNVR family and in all of our tournaments, you're really actually missing out. How did you guys do in the DNVR Open? Eric, you're saying bring it. So did you
bring it? I did better than ever on this GD podcast. I'll say that for sure.
Yeah, I did bad.
I was terrible at that game.
No, but I did bad.
I was on the leaderboard until I was no longer on the leaderboard, but I at least made an appearance on the leaderboard. I didn't see any of you fools.
So he was the first person to finish.
Just because that's true doesn't mean you have to say it, AJ.
That's how you win at golf, right? You have to be the first person to finish. That's how you
right.
win. Yeah.
That's exactly it. All these other guys get penalized for slow play.
That's how I understand it.
So clearly, it's realistic because it's frustrating, but it's also very rewarding and fun. Besides playing tournaments against the DNVR family, you can play closest to the hole or full stroke play on world-famous golf courses, including Pebble Beach, St. Andrews, Bandon Dunes, and so many more. Download WGT today and join the DNVR Clubhouse by going to dnvrgolf.com. Welcome into the Denver Sports Podcast. I am your host, Allie Monroy. With me today, I've got Dline / Eric / Dline.
That's right.
Drew Creasman, Henry Chisholm / Hank, and AJ Haefele.
I'm so glad Hank is taken over.
Yeah.
He's embraced it. It was like 50-50 for a
what
minute.
it
And
is.
but it's there. It's clearly there. I've won. My people have emerged victorious in the battle
Your
of Henry
people?
versus Hank. Yo, my
Your people?
My people.
Really? In this economy, Drew?
Yeah, Hank is such it's just so much stronger. Hank.
It is.
Hank,
It is a lot stronger, not stranger. But yeah, it has taken over. Like, I can't even try to go with Henry anymore. It's just Hank at this point.
Hank.
Yeah.
All right, well, show me your Breck Brews. Who's drinking? Who's got it? Oh, great Breck Brew, Eric. Wow.
I'm just.
Oh, the sound.
That's a designer right
I
there.
was going to say, that was killer.
You all know that Breck Brew is the official beer of DNVR, so join us in drinking by grabbing a 15-can pack of the Mile High City Lager or any of your favorite beer, but you can get the Mile High City Lager at Davidson's Beer, Wine, and Spirits and most local grocery stores and Costco. So there you go. It's pretty good deal.
Yeah, that's a slammable beer. I know. I've slammed many of them.
You've slammed many of them at games at the Pepsis. And with that, we're gonna be reminiscing today, folks. It's a moody Friday. It's like cloudy. We're drinking some Breck Brews. We're gonna talk about our favorite recent Denver sports memories, as well as favorite Denver sports memories of all time. Someone in the DNVR Lounge asked us to talk about this. If you want to have us talk about specific subjects, definitely subscribe so you can be a part of the DNVR Lounge. But you're not allowed to repeat. We have to have all different favorite recent memories. AJ, I'm going to start with you.
What?
Can I get that as a ringtone for every time I get a text from AJ?
So that like once a year?
Yeah.
I don't text DNVR people anymore.
Yeah,
It'd
we
be
have
awesome
like
if
the Discord, Slack, and a million other ways.
Right, like we have too many other avenues to contact that I'm just like, phone is irrelevant.
And then you could actually just text him the word "what," knowing that it would say,
It would just say what?
What?
AJ, I'm starting with you because you are just you're such a great storyteller, and you could really get us going on this Friday of like reminiscing and getting all in our feelings. I feel like you'd be perfect to start that off.
Let's find
So
out.
I'm
if
the
that's
romantic
true.
one. I get it. It's fine.
Your stories when you want to like romanticize the abs, I want to run through a wall after reading those. They're so good. I'm like, oh my god.
She is setting the bar really high now. Too.
Yeah, right. Wow. Now, let me just tell you about this one day I went to practice and these very basic things happened. No, I mean, recent Avs history, Cale Makar's first game was cool, right? Like, it was a perfect confluence of events that it's going to be impossible to repeat. And still not my favorite recent Avs memory. It's game 82 against St. Louis. 1 year removed from a 48-point season. There were no expectations for that team. It took a lot to get them even in the position of winning they're in. 2 nights before, St. Louis was in Chicago, and Chicago scored with less than 2 seconds left to win the game in regulation. That 1 point would have clinched the playoffs for the Blues. So it was that close. It was like 1.6 seconds from the Avs, that game not mattering at all.
Yeah.
And Duncan Keith scored his second goal of the season, and it was just like mayhem, right? Like, I remember my house, all 2 people were jumping up and down, and we're very excited because it was like, game 82 matters, and then game 82 was just mayhem. Like, the Avs came out and they played a really good first period. One of St. Louis's best players left the game with an injury, and then Sam Girard scored with less than a minute left to give them the 1-0 lead. And like, when Sam Girard is like the most bottled up dude, like such a stereotypical hockey player. Like, when I went to talk to him about his dog's adorable Instagram account, he was like, "I'm glad people like my dog. I like it." And like, that was it, right? Like,
but
also a
the
fan.
thing about Sam Girard, he's like an opera singer, or he
Yes.
like can sing opera.
Yes.
That's when he was singing at their holiday party. I was like, that's a real person. That's a real Avalanche singing.
yeah, that itty bitty little guy got a big booming voice when he wants it.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So, and like, he scores that goal and he freaks out and starts celebrating and is like screaming and pumping fists, and you're like, these guys care about this. And it was really just the emotion of the night, because it was winning you're in. And like, just the year before, they'd had a 48-point season. There were no expectations. It was a super young team, a bunch of rookies, and Pepsi Center just willed them to excellence that night. And Nathan McKinnon had that third goal where all of a sudden it was like, oh man, this is going to happen. Because St. Louis had made it 2-1 on the power play, and it was kind of like, this is still really close. You don't really believe in it. They've had trouble protecting leads. And then McKinnon put that one up over Jake Allen's shoulder, and you were like, oh my God. and then they, Landeskog with the empty netter from the other side of the ice, and they had the dog pile on the ice where you're just like...
The pictures from Landy's empty netter are like, should be framed. Amazing. Just full on dog pile on the ice.
And it's I missed that live because I was walking. I was working my way down into the arena, and so I missed the dog pile live. And like, you go back and you watch it, and the best part is Mikko Rantanen's little hop at the end where he's like, he skates up to the pile and he's like, sure, and he just
There's
like
so
this like
much that's
6'5" monster
video.
just tosses himself onto this man pile on the ice, and you're like, so there was still like 4 minutes to go in the game, so it felt a little premature, but it was also like,
wasn't Eric Johnson like pushing Sam Girard or like bullying him? I feel like there's so much that you could watch in this little clip and be like, oh my God, look at their reaction. Look at what's happening over here.
Well, and like, of course, like the bench goes insane. And like everybody, like there's like a lot of shoving because men don't know how to be affectionate towards one another.
That's not true.
Dude.
Right? Like there's like
Come to the bar tonight. I'll show you. different.
ultra aggressive, like yeah. And you're like, oh my god, adrenaline. And it was just awesome. Like it was a bunch of dumb kids having fun that weren't supposed to be where they were, and they snuck in and they gave Nashville a way more competitive series than anybody imagined.
Oh yeah.
And it just sort of set them on the path that they're on now, where they got a little bit lucky, but they took advantage of their opportunities, and now they're trending upward and they're a cup favorite, and they're going to continue to be a cup favorite for the next number of years. And it all just sort of began that night where maybe they're probably still cup favorites, but like getting in that year just changed so much of the attitude and the feeling around the organization, where it was like, okay, well now we made it. Now we belong, and now we're better than all of you. LOL, good luck. And getting in was like the beginning of that, them developing the swagger that they have now, where they walk into a building and they're like, we're going to smoke whoever this is. We don't care.
Could you have pictured like finishing off that 48-point season and imagine what would come in 3 years? Did you have any clue that something that we would be where we are today?
I will say no, because Nathan MacKinnon hadn't happened yet. And we got 5 years of a very frustrating version of Nathan MacKinnon, where he could take over any game at any time and dominate. And then he would just disappear for a week. And you're just like, what is this talent? This is so tantalizing and so frustrating. And to be honest, elite players in the NHL happen quickly. They don't develop. Elite guys are typically elite really early in their careers. So for it to have taken him 5 years is rare. Like, you don't see a lot of guys who are superstars to have like a 5-year runway until they break out and become what he has. It's just not a very common thing. Usually they show up and they're like, oh, I'm just better than all these fools. Haha. And it wasn't like that for him. Exactly. Like Cale Makar just like showed up on the scene and was like, oh, I am better than all of these guys. Yeah. Okay, cool. And has shown that. There was so much to it with MacKinnon. There was so much frustration, and the Duchesne cloud was still hanging over everything that, and the vast majority of times in all, this is true across all sports, when you make the big star player trade and you're giving up the best player in the deal, most of the time you lose the trade.
Yeah.
You just do. It's just how it goes. It's hard to win those deals. The Avs won that deal going away, and their franchise has been totally different. And it was hard to see coming, because there was a culture problem, and they didn't even change everybody. They have the same. Yeah. They have Eric Johnson and Gabe Landeskog and Nathan MacKinnon, still some of the same guys that helped turn it around. Tyson Barrie was still there, helped turn it around. And so it wasn't like they had to clean house, like what we just saw with Buffalo, where they just fired their entire organization and was like, oh, well, good luck. They didn't do that. They just
got rid of the guy.
It flipped on a dime, and there doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason. There are a lot of factors that played into it, but the switch went on, and it went on in a really big way. And if anybody ever tries to copy the Colorado model, good luck.
AJ, we've got someone asking, what do you think was the reason for MacKinnon to take so long to bloom?
The easy answer is Matt Duchesne. That he was deferential to the shadow that Duchesne kind of cast. And I have some small anecdotes that I'm not really comfortable sharing publicly that leave me to believe that wasn't the world's greatest relationship, and that Duchesne was not interested in mentoring MacKinnon into how to get to the next level. And to Dutchy's credit, how would he know how to do that? He couldn't quite get himself there as a player. And that's okay. Like, Matt Duchene's had a very, very good career. But, like, you know, when Duchene wanted out, he didn't throw a huge fit about it. He was a pro. He showed up and he worked. He was obviously not happy, but he showed up and he worked. And then when that element was gone, it just sort of seemed to free Nathan McKinnon's personality. And ever since then, you've seen him. It's like watching a game of Risk in the locker room, where like he just continues to take over territory, and then you know, the next thing you know, he's Napoleon, and you're like, oh wow, like he's dominated this entire room now, and now everybody kind of takes his cues from that corner because he and Landeskog sit next to each other, and they sort of set the tone for everybody. And before, I think there was a lot of pushing and pulling going on. And it's unfair to say it's entirely Matt Duchene's fault, but certainly the removal of him and the timing of how everything changed. I mean, you can call it a coincidence if you're being naive, but
the parallels between your team and the team I cover on this and the former Stars are just absolutely striking.
With Tulo?
With Tulo. Just everything you just said about Napoleoning. No, I'm leaving it. I'm using it from now on. The clubhouse and like taking over and becoming a de facto leader without really having the leadership capabilities to do so. That sort of puts a ceiling on what that team is capable of. And then as soon as they get rid of one of the more talented players in the franchise's history, they immediately start moving in the right direction and become a better team. And it's just like, wow. I guess that's just a thing that happens to these guys.
And when you see those guys leave and not have success elsewhere, you start to wonder. You know, Tulo obviously had injuries that kind of cut it short, where there's a lot of question marks where you say, okay, well, how much of that? But everywhere Duchene has gone. He goes to Ottawa, they fell apart. They trade him to Columbus, and they won a playoff round, and hooray, that's great. He leaves in free agency. He goes to Nashville. Nashville is one of the top teams in the NHL. He shows up, now they're competing for a playoff spot. Everywhere he's gone, they've taken steps back, and you're just sort of it's easy to connect those dots, right? And say there's something wrong with the player, despite the fact that as an NHL player, he's a very good player, and off the ice, he's a great human being. But there's something disconnected there that seems to be following him. I don't. It's hard to say what it was, but you see the pattern, and it's very easy to be like, oh well, that's certainly a thing that's happening.
I always thought it was like, because when we watched the MJ doc, it's like they even talk about there are these different parts of his dynamic and why like he wasn't great, you know, at getting the best out of guys around him when he was on the Wizards or as a coach or as a GM at times, because like you just demanded that people be excellent. And I think just like the next level down is when you demand that level of excellence. But as you said, if you're Matt Duchene or Troy Tulowitzki, you're that next level down, whether, you know, for Tulo it's because he couldn't stay on the field or whatever, but it's like you're demanding elite level of excellence, which is something you yourself are not capable of delivering on a consistent basis. And so it really, I think that's what it is. It starts to fall apart for everyone around you.
It's a really interesting topic, how the older guy should mentor the younger guy. In every sport, it's kind of like so many people think, oh, of course you should mentor, but then other people are like, well, that guy's going to take your job, so who cares about the team? Like, think about yourself. And you see it in every single sport, and it feels like such a weird dynamic of whether you should help the rookie.
Like, it's life, right? Like any workplace where the hotshot young person shows up and they start to get showered with a lot of the company's love and affection, you start to feel like, oh, well, that's the anointed one. And it just creates a resentment because we're all human. We all have feelings, and we all like attention, and we all like being told that we're special and unique snowflakes. And when that attention goes to one specific person all the time, it doesn't feel great all the time. Like, it can create that resentment, and it takes a special kind of mindset to keep that from happening and to just accept, you know, sometimes guys are special. Sometimes Cale Makar shows up and he's a freak of nature, and everybody just has to accept that he was in college hockey 2 days ago. Now he's on the second pairing of a playoff team, And that's just reality. Sorry. Like, he's just that good. He's just a freak.
AJ, do you think the Avs, those players like Nathan McKinnon and Gabriel Landeskog, really learned to embrace that after dealing with the whole Duchesne, then going to Nathan McKinnon, then having Cale Makar come in and be that star immediately where you couldn't deny it? Do you think they learned a bit from the situation with Duchesne to react in a better way?
I think and it's tough to speak for them because it's it's a little unfair, but from my viewpoint of it, the biggest thing that they learned was that winning a Stanley Cup is something more than an individual accomplishment. It's not something that you look back on and say, I did this. It's we did this. And the biggest change in attitude that I saw in that locker room was that it became less about, I'm getting mine, I'm doing my job, why aren't you doing yours? And it became about, all of our jobs are linked together. All of our jobs matter together. We all have to do them together in order to achieve the kind of greatness that we want. We want to be remembered. We want to be special. We want to have the ceremony where our number goes up in the Pepsi Center rafters. We want to be the team that steals the Broncos' thunder in this town. We want to be the ones that have the party, that do the parades. We want that. And so they set the bar, they set the goal as a team, and they started to figure out how to go about accomplishing it as a team instead of a group of individuals.
God, I want hockey back.
Let's go!
Look at Allie ready to run through a wall, just like she said.
You're like, oh, yeah, they can be that. That's why I'm like, oh.
They are that now. They're a buzzsaw.
They can win they can have those things. Oh, all right. Anyways, let's move on to Eric.
Okay. What was that decision-making process?
I don't know. I just decided there is no rhyme or reason.
No rhyme, no reason. All right. Well, my favorite recent memory in the world of the Denver Nuggets and Denver in general, I had two. So this season, there was a game against the Utah Jazz, the hated Utah Jazz, that happened right after we made a trade where we sent some fan favorites away to hated Minnesota. We lost Malik Beasley. We lost Juancho Hernan-Gomez and Jared Vanderbilt.
Can't forget about Jared Vanderbilt.
And we didn't get our players back in time. So when we were suiting up against the Jazz, we had 7 players available to us. And I don't know if you guys have watched basketball before, but there needs to be 5 players on the court at any given time, which leaves 2 players on the bench at any given time. So, and somehow the Nuggets won that game. It was the most improbable victory I think I've ever seen in my entire life. We had to call upon the service of Vlatko Chanchar and PJ Dozier to come off the bench. And
you made up that first person.
I know, I did. So that, but this, go ahead.
The craziest part, it was on a back-to-back.
Yep.
I believe. Back-to-back game. Wow. And the Utah Jazz were on like a huge winning streak. Yes. And the Jazz were like doing really well in the standings. I don't remember. It was just the most improbable. You would not think you went into that game being like, oh, it's an easy loss for the Nuggets.
We were doing a post-game show that night. As I was driving over, I felt like I was like just like going to like it was like a funeral. I was just driving. I was like, this is good. Like, what are we going to talk about? Like, yeah, like I have like 18 excuses as to why the Nuggets are about to get blown out. I'm like, and then we showed up. It was like the most amazing night ever. I drank, like way too many Mile High City copper lagers that I should have to be appearing on camera, but I didn't care. So that was incredible. But my actual favorite moment of recent Nuggets history was last year in the playoffs, Game 7 against the San Antonio Spurs. Nuggets have not been to a playoff series in some time, as you may know. I don't know if you guys have watched basketball before, but
was it 9 years?
There was a little bit of a gap in between playoff appearances. I don't know if we have to put an exact number on it, but there were a couple of factors going into it, both on the court and off the court. Personally, for me, me and Adam and Brendan had waged personal war against Nick Wright. because he kept calling the Nuggets frauds, that they didn't belong in the playoffs. No one should believe in them.
Honestly, everyone has their personal hatred towards Nick Wright.
Well, but he was responding to us. We were fighting with him publicly on Twitter, and so. So he I made a shirt, the Mile High City Frauds. So we had a lot of skin in the game at this point. And the series was really up and down. It was really we had unbelievably amazing highs and then just gut wrenching, what am I doing with my life lows? And we got to that 7th game. I bought myself a really primo club level seat right in the corner, right above Adam, actually, so I could yell down at him. Not intentionally, but it just worked that way. And I was by myself because I'm a social animal. And so I was just sitting there, not talking to anybody. And I was just so nervous. And the Nuggets got out to this big lead. And I was like, that's it. I'm going to do this. Gonna do this. I'm going to dunk on Nick Wright publicly for the whole world to see. And then in the 4th quarter, the Nuggets were just they're like, we're good. Let's. So they just went into coast mode for the last 5 minutes. They made no bad. They scored 18 points in the 4th quarter, and the Spurs were just meticulously coming back. And I just was having these horrible visions of Greg Popovich laughing on my grave, and Nick Wright taking an entire segment just to dunk on me and the rest of the Denver Stiffs at that point. But in life sometimes good wins and evil loses. So the Nuggets were able to hold on. The Spurs inexplicably they got within 2 points, and then there was a minute left in the game, or much more time than there should have been left for them. Yeah, but and then they just didn't foul. The Spurs are just whatever. Let's just get we're not going to win the next round. We know that. So they just let it happen. The Nuggets won, and then I just went into this this blissful Zen. I just rose out of my body and just was floating out above the Pepsi Center, just watching things happen, getting on my phone and tweeting at Nick Wright that loud. And it was there's just never been a confluence of pettiness and justification and good feelings and bad feelings. It was just I felt so full in my heart and in my spirit. It was just a great moment. I just sat and watched everybody walk by. Everyone was giving each other smiles and high fives and you know what, guys, the Denver Nuggets are a real franchise in the NBA, and we can do things. And this Nikola Jokic is a real guy, and he's going to bring good, special things to this city. And then they lost the next round in 7 games, and it was heartbreaking.
I was going to say very different. Game 7 in the first round.
Yeah.
And Game 7 in the second round. Both at Pepsi Center. Yeah. Both very different feelings as you sat there in happiness and then in just complete. What happened? Just watch.
Yeah, after Game 7 in the Portland game, I sat in the Breck Brew lounge, or the cabin or whatever they call it, and I just sat there and I was despondent, unable to even tweet at Nick Wright.
And I couldn't even muster a tweet.
I couldn't do it.
I like that Nick Wright's back at it now with the Drew Lock and Broncos thing.
I know.
He's always at it.
Yes, welcome back to the hatred.
Yes. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I 89% of what I love about sports is just being hateful and small and petty, and just letting all of those terrible feelings that don't serve you in life be focused on something that doesn't matter at all in the world, like sports. And so then in my real life, when I encounter people, I'm nice to them, and I don't tweet at them, and I don't try to make them look bad publicly in front of other people. But online, and then in the context of sports, that's literally all I do. And so it's been taken from me, and I don't appreciate that.
Now he tweets at people in real life, which I need to see. I need to see that happen. A real life
Nick
tweet.
Wright hates everyone. I know him as for his very annoying takes on the Eagles, but the Broncos, the Nuggets, all of it. He's just like a.
I didn't realize.
Kansas City, right?
Yeah, I didn't realize that until now. I came to light that he's from Kansas City. He's been Kansas City guy. So what are we doing?
Oh, he's also a big Cowboys fan. That's Cowboys.
I'm going to add him right now. Hold on.
Anyway,
at Nick Wright.
Peaceful reminiscing on some great memories, and it got a little heated. But we have a Jazz fan from the comments saying, as a Jazz fan, that was probably the most embarrassing thing I've ever seen from
I don't ever want to
them.
hear any of this Rudy Gobert bull ever again. Get it out of here.
You don't feel like starting the pandemic that shut down the NBA was the most embarrassing thing out of the Jazz franchise?
Shut down the NBA. Like, the NHL was like, oh, great. I guess we're done.
But also losing that
Thanks,
game was
Rudy.
also pretty embarrassing.
Then we got, it's interesting all the hate Denver teams get for almost no reason.
Hate us because they hate us.
Except the
it's
Broncos.
the altitude, right, Spike?
Yeah, oh God.
Oh, God. Don't get me started. He does not represent yeah, let me tell you, I have talked to a lot of people who live there who are like, he's not one of us. Just get him out of here. Anyways, on to happier times. Drew, what is your favorite recent Denver sports memory? It doesn't have to be from your individual sport that you favorite or that you cover or is your favorite, but just in general. Favorite.
It will be for Drew. It will.
I mean, yeah, whatever.
I'm just letting
It's a weird time to put that caveat in. You know what's about to happen. Don't even pretend like you don't know exactly what I'm about to say. Actually, I'm going
Father's
to cheat.
Day?
I'm going to cheat a little bit. No, I thought about that. It always comes to mind, but the Father's Day walk-off cycle, like, as dope as it was like one of 162 games, and right after that,
but it was the dopest one.
It was it wasn't even the best regular season game of that regular season, but from an improbability standpoint, that Nolan Arenado did what he did in that moment should not be undersold. It was incredibly unlikely, and it was amazing to behold. I'm going to cheat a little bit, though. I could just take the wild card game from 2018, but the truth is, it's the final dozen days of the 2018 season.
What a cheater!
The whole thing is one gigantic blurry moment, and I even have a similar, like with Eric talking about like being on Twitter and stuff with it, because see what had happened was. This was right when we were really starting to trend, like
before you get going, because I feel like it's going to be a long
yeah. This is where Adam would put on some music for me. so like weird romantic music, whatever. But
sultry.
So I flew out to Los Angeles to watch the Colorado Rockies in what I thought was a make or break series for their season. 3 games against the Dodgers. They needed to win at least one by the time I got there, because they lost a really stupid game in the series before that to San Francisco, where they got 2 hits against a pitcher named Chris Stratton. I'd never heard of him either. I have, but you get the point. And the Rockies got swept in LA, and their best player at the time, Trevor Story, got hurt. And their best bullpen guys imploded. Kyle Freeland pitched a gem that got erased. They got swept, and everyone thought the season was over. And I did like that on the flight back. I was thinking about it, and they were off to Arizona, and they had 10 games left on the schedule. And I had predicted before the season they were going to win 90 games, and they were 8 short of doing that. So I said, okay. Despite the fact that they've got 3 teams that have been in the postseason picture left on the schedule, all they've got to do is go 8-2 to match my preseason prediction of winning 90 games. And I think that'll get them the second wild card. And then I tweeted that out. And this is why I picked this whole stretch of time. Because the next day, they won a game in Arizona. And so I tweeted out, 1-0. They need to win. They need to go 8-2. Then the next night they won. Then the next night they won. And this is what baseball does. And this is the thing about the everyday nature of it. It's why 2007 was so special, even if you're not a baseball fan necessarily. Because every day, if you're even a sports fan, you start asking the question, the Rockies get eliminated? I know that they got swept in L.A. People won't even watch the game. They get eliminated yesterday? No? Okay, well, you check the next day. They get eliminated? No, they keep winning. They just keep hanging on. They were completely backed into a corner. They were terrible. They were getting punched in the gut. Well, they're hanging in there. They're hanging in there. They sweep Arizona. Now all of a sudden they come back to Denver, and it's like, well, shoot. They just hang in there, just continue to play well. But they got the Phillies and the Nationals. The Nationals would win the World Series the following year. The Phillies made all of the trades at the deadline and acquired all the players that the Rockies were supposed to acquire. And there were a bunch of ridiculous losers for not acquiring those guys, and they mowed them down. Armen Marquez struck out the first 8 Phillies in a game. Those dudes were out for blood, and they destroyed those guys. 2 teams that everybody in the national media would have told you were better teams than the Colorado Rockies, and they mowed those guys down. 9-1, not 8-2 over that final stretch. So not only did they earn that second wild card, but they forced a tie for the division with the Los Angeles Dodgers. No time to sleep. You've got 12 hours of rest because you got to fly to LA the next day. Lose that game. Tough going. Amazing pitching performance from Walker Buehler. What are you going to do? No time to rest. You've got 12 hours to get to Chicago and win in 13 innings of marathon baseball. It was insane, the amount of baseball they had to play, how long they had to maintain their focus, and it should be to nobody's shock that they completely came unraveled after all of that. They were exhausted, they were done, but it was an exhilarating week and a half stretch of baseball.
I thought I was going to have to retire my NL West participants shirt, and then 24 hours later I was like, nope, going to go ahead and keep that one in the line.
That game was just the 13 innings of like agony. You're just like, what is going on?
And here's the thing, man. Kyle Freeland, who pitched in the decisive game that got the Rockies into the postseason and won it, made his first postseason appearance for his hometown team on the road in the oldest ballpark in the National League against the winningest pitcher in the history of the Major League Baseball postseason, and he outpitched that guy. I watched him do it. It was unbelievable, and baseball is so hard, and I get it. It feels weird to people who are more fans of other sports to like celebrate the winner of the wild card game, but it's not the same thing as celebrating whoever comes in 7th or 8th in the NBA and sneaks their way into the playoffs. It's not. That the Rockies won that game was incredible, given everything that they had just gone up against, given the odds against them. It was an absolutely exhilarating run that team went on, and required production from everybody involved, from like a 30-man roster. Just insane. Great stuff. Cheers.
You did a very great job of describing that.
I can't help but notice that Allie is not ready to run through a wall, though.
I couldn't. I tried. I did, but I couldn't. Is it because they got swept by the Brewers in the NLDS? No one.
Maybe it's because I bought a playoff ticket to go watch Rocktober at Coors Field and wasn't able to.
Baseball is specifically designed to break your heart. Everyone should know that. That's its explicit purpose.
Yeah,
that's
cause
the reason
pain.
why we love it. You love what causes pain.
Yeah.
So
it's weird that as humans we like that.
I don't like that. I don't like that at all.
That's why you follow
No. I just want to talk trash to do
Yeah, like I want to administer pain to Nick Wright. I thought I made that pretty clear.
That's why you follow sports, because you know Nug's life is gonna hit eventually.
Oh, Allie, what are you doing? Knock it off. Things are different now. We have Nikola Jokic. Didn't you hear me?
Ugh.
I'm just telling you.
All right, all those second round losses we're gonna.
No, unbelievable.
All right.
What's the muting policy on this podcast?
Throw it back at him. I'm not getting excited about the wild card.
Moving on, Hank.
All right.
I need your favorite recent Denver sports.
We don't want to hear about the Montana Grizzlies either.
No.
Oh, that's too bad. But the good thing I've had about a half hour now to come up with one of the best moments.
I was going to say, Hank is still here.
Hank has been very quiet. Hank, You can choose Buffs or Broncos or whatever suits your heart.
Oh, I know exactly what it is. It
Okay,
was actually,
go for it.
like, not as a joke. Having this much time to think about it has been great because I went through all of the great sports moments that I've had since moving to Denver. Like, and I mean, some of them I don't know that they count as great. Like the day Eric and I went to that Nuggets game, the day Kobe died. And everybody there is still just kind of like, and I know that that's weird, but it's more of just like this powerful moment where it's just like everybody goes to a basketball arena and it's just like mourning, and just to be a part of something like that was really cool. And so you have like stuff like that, but in terms of the best sports moment, it is not close. My first ever game at Folsom Field. So that was actually my first ever like FBS college football game. but it happened to be against the Nebraska Cornhuskers, which made it even more special. It was just like a wild day. Like you get there, like walking up to the press box, and I don't know that there's like 400 media members there, and that there's like a map out there saying like which seat you're supposed to take. And so I'm just walking around trying to find my name.
Oh, we should have prepped you a little better.
Yes. Oh, yeah, definitely.
100%. Yep.
Totally agree there. But yeah, so I'm just like looking for my seat, and I find my name tag, and I'm just like looking at who's next to me, and I look over, and it's Woody Page. So I'm like, wait, there's 400 people covering this game. This is my first ever FBS game, first time at Folsom Field, and I'm covering the Buffs. Woody Page, like my childhood idol, is sitting next to me. And at halftime, the Buffs were down 17-0. The whole time, Woody's just like, this is just gross football on both sides. Like these guys don't know what they're doing. But he somehow he has like the shorter sentences, and he doesn't talk all that much. So it's just like punchy. It's just like, oh, that was a good like classic sports writer line based on what's going on in the game. But
like, this sucks. You're like, wow.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I don't know why there's hype about any of this. And it's like, okay, whatever. I'm like, this is my new job, so cool down a little bit if you want.
It's like, this is the most amazing moment of my life. Where it's just like, why does anyone care to even be here?
There's a buffalo on the field. It's crazy. But then in the second half, the Buffs go off. Steven Montez hits Tony Brown with like a minute left on a deep ball to send it to overtime. I'm down on the field, like in front of the student section, like as they're getting ready to charge the field on that kick. Skipped over the flea flicker with KD too, 96 yards. But yeah, that was just by far the coolest thing to be a part of.
I agree. That was definitely all right. I'll take you out. I have control of it.
I have a question.
That the Buffs won both rivalry games, and this is the one that actually is more meaningful to all of the Buffs fans.
Oh, no, you're not from here. Listen, that doesn't. You have no skin in the game. You don't care. Like
you barely do. What
do you mean I barely do? I grew up in Fort Collins. I went to CSU. I have to listen to this CU nonsense my whole life. What do you mean I'm barely involved?
But how much do you actually care on Saturdays about CSU? You're like, oh, they lost. So.
Well, I've coated my heart in a hard shell. It can't be penetrated until this new Adazio. The dude has cracked the shell. So who knows? Maybe I'm in deep now. We'll find out.
No, I agree, Henry. That game was amazing. It was probably the most stressful few moments of my life, as that was the first time I was ever watching CU play Nebraska live, and there's obviously so much history with these two teams, and I had missed the year before where they went to Nebraska and beat them. So I was just like, oh my God, this is just not a good sign. The first half was, I think I was texting you. I was like, not happy. I was like, this is not good. And then all of a sudden it all turned amazing, and the Buffs somehow came back, and everyone rushed the field, and Nebraska fans were very, very, very salty and upset about it.
Truth be told, I was actually into that game too. Like it
was crazy.
Yeah, because I mean, like my whole life has been about like I am angry at CU when CSU plays them, and then after that, it's sort of just like whatever Colorado team it is going out into the world of college football where no team ever from Colorado gets any respect. I just kind of root for them. So I'd moved past my pettiness. Not really. I think anybody who's listening to this learns that's not really a thing that I do, right? But even I watching that, I was like, oh man, that was man, that was a game. Holy
Yeah.
cow, that flea flicker. And then Ryan wrote the love sonnet to the flea flicker.
Yep.
It was all so amazing. And that's why going into the next week against Air Force was so hard for a fan. As a fan, I don't even know how the players did it. When you're still like living off this high of an amazing game, and you're like, oh my God, it's already the next week, and they have to play against another team.
Yeah, the Buffs haven't played their rivals in a decade at home, and everybody's just going insane because they're losing, and then they put up 31 points in the last 16, 17 minutes to send it to overtime.
We were so dehydrated. You were like, but you can't leave your seat because look at what's happening. And it was crazy. And then there was a lot of older Nebraska fans after the game being really nice to us and insulting us and telling us to go get high and climb a mountain. So
you're like, we'll do just that.
Well, like, that was good.
That is not an insult.
Sounds like a great afternoon. Great.
Kind of weird thing. Why don't you have an amazing meal and listen to some fantastic music yet?
You're like, stop it.
That definitely has to be one of my. I've tweeted it out. My two, best favorite Denver sports memories would be the Cale Makar game in the playoffs at Pepsi Center. It was just like once the lights turned off and the game was starting, the atmosphere. I just got goosebumps. Like there was no way of not getting goosebumps. Seeing the pom-poms going crazy was just like, oh my God, this is like special. And I feel like that's something that's so cool about indoor sports, having that like feeling of just everyone is so close and everything feels so loud. And it was so loud over the TV. And that was just amazing. Everyone going crazy for Cale Makar's goal. But then after that, I would have to say close second would be the Nebraska game. But all right, another podcast where we've talked for a very, very long time. So, golf is back. We've been playing WGT, missing it, and now we have another full weekend of golf ahead of us. DraftKings Sportsbook is putting you in the center of the action with a sign-up bonus up to $1,000. Eric, you've been doing pretty well on DraftKings Sportsbook. Do you have a recommendation for this weekend?
Oh, I have a recommendation for this weekend.
Some money on.
Yeah.
Besides Blades.
Oh, well then no, I don't. You just really undercut me there.
All right.
Bet on Blades, baby. Like, why walk away from free money? That's free money. Bet on Blades.
He already warned the world that he was going to have his,
awesome.
Something about a rag doll, and it wasn't going to be 25 minutes. So sorry. He let you all know. So put some money. That's what you're putting money on, Eric?
Yes. You know why? Because I like free money.
Hank, do you have any golf that you're putting some money on? Any guys we should, well, I guess a lot after that face?
Oh, yeah. Well, everybody I've put money on so far is now out of it. So I'm about to come up with another
maybe don't listen.
Do the opposite of whatever it is that Hank says you should do. So my formula there.
My betting strategy is to be very judicious. I don't like to spread a lot of potential seeds out there. I like to hone in on things that I feel like are going to hit, and it served me well. So far, I'm 10-3 in all of my bets.
There you
go. I'm a big winner so far to this point. That's right.
All right, Henry, I don't think I'm going to give you a chance to give us your picks.
Well,
we don't want that
Mark
pick.
Mark Hubbard from Denver. He's tearing it up. You got to support him.
Okay, that's not supporting him. That's just losing money for no reason.
Losing money and support. I am going to be a wealthy man if the Rockies win the World Series this year.
Oh.
Also, if the Avs and Nuggets both win titles, I mean, I guess I'd probably keep my job, but.
Yeah. And also, anybody
You're just letting us know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't know.
Henry, you just put money on all of your favorite teams winning their championship.
Yeah.
He bets like a small child. That's how a child bets.
Yeah.
But although, I don't know if they still have it. DraftKings was offering a big odds boost for the Avs to win the entire thing.
They were a week ago. I don't know if they are.
If it's still, man, I got in on that. I hit that hard.
Oh, so did I.
No. All right. Well, guys, if you want some maybe a little more solid advice, go listen to DNVR Bets Daily tonight at 5 o'clock. RK and Andre will be giving you all the details on things you should bet on DraftKings Sportsbook over the weekend. But before you do that, don't forget to download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the code DNVR when you sign up. Like I was saying earlier, for a limited time, all new users can get a sign-up bonus up to $1,000. That's right, DraftKings Sportsbook is going all out with a sign-up bonus up to $1,000. Just enter the code DNVR when you sign up. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook, must be 21 or older, Colorado only. Bonus comprised of a first deposit bonus and a first bet match, each up to $500. Deposit bonus requires 25x playthrough. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem, definitely call 1-800-522-4700. Oh, that's a mouthful. I'm going to need to drink some Breck Brew.
Some Breck Brew after that.
All right, well, to no surprise, that topic went pretty long, so we're going to move on to favorite Denver sports memory of all time, but you can't talk for too long, folks. I will pull out the clock, and we will do Who Won the Week. Oh, it's been so long since we did that. Who Won the Week style if you go over your time. So
no weeks have been won.
Can we do Who Lost the Week?
Wow.
I'm a crushed at.
I mean, 2 buffs tested positive for coronavirus. So I'm...
There's
Okay.
Who hasn't at this point?
It's what a world we live in.
Anyway.
Hi, Allie.
Fun sport memories.
Right.
Let's move on to that. Henry, since you had to wait for 45 minutes for last time, what is your favorite Denver sports memory of all time? This should be easy. You should already know.
Oh, yeah. I had it narrowed down really quickly, but there's about, I guess 5 games really you could choose from.
No.
All I know is it's one of Tim Tebow's wins.
Oh, my God.
And I think
you have to choose one of them.
I think it has to be a game.
Yes. Let's go.
But there were some others in there that were just incredible. But yeah,
So the one in the play. So which one?
The wild card game
against the Steelers.
Thomas, it's just the perfect moment.
That's your top Denver sports moment.
You know what my dog is?
What are you, a Cleveland fan? What the hell, dude? We've won championships in this town.
I almost
have some self-respect, bro.
No. I'm going to defend him. He's a baby. He's a child. He wasn't around when the Broncos and the Avs, or he was, but he was a 2-year-old when the Broncos and the Avs won their titles. So let him choose what he wants to choose.
Hank, just to be clear, the defense for your choice is that you're a child.
I feel like that's how I justify most of the things I do.
You know that they went to 2 Super Bowls in the 3 years immediately after this.
Yes, and
I know, what the hell?
I hadn't had sports happiness in forever. Tim Tebow come in and do all that stuff. The Super Bowl was great. I'll give you that.
Thanks.
It was spectacular. I was at one of the AFC Championship games. The Freight played.
Maybe I should have given him some more time to think about it.
I really wish somebody had come on before me and taken it. I will say that. I will say the plan was for somebody to say Super Bowl.
There was nothing, though, I will say, to the just not knowing what the hell was going to happen every time that Broncos team. That was some of the most fun I have ever had watching football was during the Tebow thing, because there was this extraordinarily palpable, people expect and are rooting for this guy to fail.
Yeah, that was me.
And there were even a lot of his own fans, and
yep, I booed him.
In the most absurd ways they would pull out these wins, and I'm a little with Hank here, just the sounds you would make. If you watch sports, AJ. If you watch sports for that, oh my God, I can't believe that happened moment, than the Tim Tebow Bronco years. It's like, oh, they brought in Peyton Manning, who had already won a Super Bowl and already established himself as one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, and they got better, and they went to a couple Super Bowls and won. Like, okay, no, I'm with you. And then he thanked Bud Light immediately after instead of his own actual, local beers, maybe. But sure, no, I'm Team Hank. Let's go, Tebow. Tebow.
I don't think anybody's ever said that before. I don't think anybody's ever said Team Hank before.
Team Hank.
I didn't even know that was
Team
a team.
Hank. That was so much fun. Even when the Peyton Manning Broncos were winning games, they weren't fun.
What is wrong with both of you?
What else is going on
AJ?
at that time?
Like, you expect to win. You got that guy on your team. You better.
Unbelievable.
Oh
The Broncos produced the greatest offensive season of all time, and it wasn't good enough for you because we
Do
scored
you not
9
remember
points.
that game in Dallas where they were just like touchdown, just trading touchdowns?
And Drew was like,
Broncos game in like 20 years.
he's like, this bores me now.
Like, I would rather watch 0-0 football until
That's what
8
I'm
minutes
saying.
left in the fourth quarter and then have absolute mayhem breakout and pretend like I had a good time.
Yeah. You want to watch a football game where you're 48 of the minutes, you're like,
You put the
You
dog in
spent
it.
3 hours during the activity. 2 hours and 40 minutes was misery.
Yeah.
And you hated yourself and
Yeah.
you wanted to do anything else.
You understand you're describing a baseball game.
What the hell
You understand that what you've just described is the typical baseball game.
oh my God. Well, I assume that you followed Tim Tebow's baseball career closely then.
Yeah. I followed every step of the way. He's nowhere near as terrible, by the way, as people think.
No,
Like,
he's just normal terrible. Okay.
He's a much better baseball player than he was NFL quarterback.
Oh my
The
God.
fact that the guy's a legitimate professional baseball player is insane. He may or may not ever make it to the big leagues, but he's a legitimate AAA talent.
Wow,
and
that's really amazing.
It actually is that to be able to reach that level after having already been a quarterback in the NFL, like that's insane. It is.
No, it's
It's
not.
really, really, really hard to get to that level of baseball. There are a lot of extraordinarily talented people who have to retire before they ever get to AAA in baseball.
Okay, so
Very
Hank
hard.
is all Tebow mania. AJ is all against Tebow mania. Yes.
I feel like just to spite Drew, I should say that my favorite Denver sports moment was the trading of Melo.
Good.
Like,
That face isn't so. Oh, okay.
Where
I mean, it
does
seems
signing
weird,
Peyton
but-
factor in?
I like
The
that.
day they signed Peyton?
Just signing Peyton.
I mean, that was
Up
cool.
there.
Okay, Henry. So, are you sticking with that being your favorite Denver sports memory of all time?
You gotta just remember
Is
though, like
Tebow the Broncos versus Steelers?
It was a great. Listen, that was a great moment. It was
I'm
an
going
absolutely
crazy
great
at my
moment.
house.
But
I
Yeah,
have
it
my
was
dog
awesome.
wearing the jersey with its name on the back, the name of the man who just made the game. I can't describe a better moment than exactly that.
Give it to him. The man. Let him. Let the baby have his bottle. It's fine. That's a great moment.
I just the thing
Nice.
I wanted to clear up is of all
He drinks
time.
from a
not
bottle.
That's my
just-
favorite.
Okay. That was a lot. AJ.
Go to Eric for a minute.
I done messed up the AJ. I'm sorry.
I'm trying to
listen.
bring it down a notch here.
You know what? You know what's
I
gonna
meant
flip.
70% of what I
AJ
said. I want
up
you to know.
here.
You know what's gonna flip AJ on his head a little bit. One of my, I think, favorite moment in Denver sports was when the Avs hoisted the cup in 2001 or 2000.
I mean,
What-
it's a top like 5 hockey moment of all time.
It was
and
incredible.
it should certainly be a top 10 sports moment of all time. So the fact that we're 58 minutes into this and it's just getting brought up is kind
was-
of wild.
Well, it
like,
was recent memory and
But-
then now all time. Y'all
Sure,
went off
and
on your recent
we had to
memory.
listen to 20 minutes of Tim Tebow
I
to
know
get to
I'm
Ray
not-
Bork lifting the cup, a moment
Yeah.
that brings
It's
people
my
to
mistake.
tears.
I shouldn't have gone to Henry first. I had a mistake.
Yeah.
Allie's
I
gonna
felt
step
bad.
in
He
front of that
waited
train.
for so long. I should have known better. I apologize.
yeah. I like that image of Tanguay putting that big rebound in at the end of the near the end of the game. That's burned into my. into my eyeballs. Like,
that makes it 3-0 halfway through the game, and you're like, "Oh my god, it's happening!"
Oh, we were watching in a basement in Denver. Like, we were like, "Is this going to happen? Is this going to happen?" And then it happened, and then I immediately went out and got tear gassed and pepper sprayed. It was incredible.
Yep, and you learn about his feelings on that if you come hang out at the DNVR bar as he goes into detail about these fun stories.
I like that you say that like it's like a scheduled show that we put on at the bar. Like if you show up around 4:30, you can catch Eric telling the story of the time he got tear gassed.
I wish I said it that eloquently. No, as Ryan has told a few people, if you come to the bar and catch him after a few drinks, you're going to hear a lot of interesting stories. I feel like Eric is the same way. Henry is nodding his head as like, oh, yeah. So, okay, that's a little nerve-wracking.
Oh, no.
It's true.
There's really only so many things one can say about Tinder in the zoo, man. So.
You would think, but we don't know.
Seems to be an endless well.
Until you keep bringing Tinder girls to the zoo.
But also this one's for Pat.
Henry, I have a serious. Oh, okay. Well,
this one's for Pat.
This one's for Pat. Going back to the main subject of this podcast. Yes. This one's for Pat is a pretty good one. Oh my god, it's an amazing one.
Would be a good choice.
It would have been, sure, it's true.
I could see myself picking that one, yep.
But Eric, you're going with 2001 Cup, right?
Yeah, yep.
All right, Drew, what is your favorite Denver sports memory of all time?
I'm still allowed to pick one? I haven't been... my privileges have not yet been revoked.
If Henry was able to pick one, you're allowed to pick one.
So to not cheat again and just take all of Rocktober?
Yeah, that's not allowed. We're done with that.
Then I guess I'll go slightly against the grain from 163 in 07 and actually pick the game where they clinched it, Game 4 against Arizona, and went to the World Series. Like that was huge, and everything about that was extraordinarily satisfying to respond to a team that has literally come out and said they're not better than us, they haven't played better than us, not even close, and then sweep them dudes right out the postseason was just extraordinarily satisfying. That the final play of the game was the guy who should have been Rookie of the Year and should have won Gold Glove that year, making a really good defensive play and throwing the ball into the hands of the icon of the franchise, Mr. Rocky, Todd Helton himself, who threw his arms into the air, one of the most iconic poses in the history of Denver sports. The World Series is coming to Denver, Colorado. All of it.
Didn't he also throw out Eric Burns?
And he threw out Eric Burns.
Yes, he did.
Who just all of it was right there, and it was so... And they won in all the ways they'd been winning. It was their 20th win in 21 games. Or no, it was their 21st win out of 22 games. They had to knock off all the teams in their division. The Diamondbacks were the team that won the division that year, and they celebrated their win of the NL West at Coors Field with a big champagne bath. So to come back a week and a half later and sweep these dudes out the postseason, it was so remarkably satisfying. And... I remind people of this all the time. I know what happened in the World Series. I don't know what happens in the World Series. World Series.
What happens in the World Series stays in the World Series.
It's the World Series. Look, man.
Unless you win, then everyone.
Right. Then it obviously counts the most. The Colorado Rockies won the National League pennant. That was enough to summon angels in the outfield. Just win the pennant. Like it wasn't even a World Series. Wasn't even a thing. So. The Colorado Rockies won the National League pennant in that moment. I was there the next year when they hung that thing at Coors Field. It was extraordinary. It was magical. It was perfect. Forget about what happened after. Just forget.
As
far as I'm concerned, the season ended there. I've won AJ back.
Yep, we're cool again.
AJ's all like, yes, sir.
It was beautiful. Even the stuff where they brought back Willie Taveras, they made these decisions where it's this guy had been hurt for the last 2.5 months of the season. And so he wasn't there for the big run, and these fill-ins like Corey Sullivan and Ryan Spilborghs had to come out and make it so that the team could function. And they got him through all this stuff in game 163 against the Padres and that first series against the Phillies. And then your starting center fielder is healthy, and Glenn Hurdle's like, screw it, throw him in there. And Willie Taveras makes like an extraordinary catch, draws a walk-off walk to win the game. Kaz Matsui's awesome. That team was the. I'm done.
Okay.
You said keep it short, right?
I did, yep. But I mean, that was so good that I had to let it. And AJ just being real excited. I mean, it all makes this cloudy Friday happy.
Right.
So AJ,
we've renamed an entire month after what those guys did.
It's true. It's true.
I guess before AJ finishes up, because I assume it may be a little long as well, guys, before I encourage you to drink more Breck brews, don't forget about taking care of your teeth. It is also so important. And if you schedule a cleaning, x-ray, and exam at Green Mountain Dental Group, you'll receive a free Sonicare toothbrush. Don't forget to tweet at us when you go there, because showing them support really helps us out, and we want to show them how awesome this community really is. So don't forget to call Green Mountain Dental Group today and schedule a cleaning, x-ray, and exam so you can get your amazing Sonicare toothbrush for free. That's what Drew went to go do right now. He's calling. That's why he just left the chat. AJ, what is your favorite Denver sports memory of all time?
Whoa.
Came in hot.
Yeah, that was already. Take it away, Drew. Jeez. My favorite Denver sports memory when Steve Atwater killed Randy Hilliard and Robert Brooks right at the end of Super Bowl 32.
Yeah.
Because it was like,
forgot about
it was
that.
such a close game, and like that was like the one thing that I wasn't emotionally prepared for was like the deep ball ripping my heart out. And I loved Steve Atwater, and he was such a dominant force that game. I've always said that if TD doesn't get 3 touchdowns, that Steve Atwater wins MVP of that game, because he was insane. And that was sort of like the moment where I was like, oh my God, they're gonna win. And then they did, and it was, the Avs had won the cup already, but that really felt like Denver's like sports validation. Mm-hmm. And the cup was the 96 cup. I was a little I was disconnected just because I was out on the East Coast and I was asleep for it. It was triple overtime. It was 3:00 in the morning in Massachusetts where I was. Like it was, it was tough for me to be as connected to that. And then here, I was here in Denver when the Broncos beat the Packers, and they were that huge underdog, and the NFC had won like 14 in a row, and it was just this, it was so unlikely at the time, and it was such a great game. We've had a lot of really good Super Bowls in the last 15 or so years, so that game kind of gets forgotten about, but it was after a lot of blowouts in the Super Bowl for the decade leading up to that game. That was a fantastic game. And you go back and you look at all the Hall of Famers that were in it, all the team, John Elway and Brett Favre going head to head. And that was Brett Favre at like the height of his powers when he was winning MVPs. And John Elway was just like the old all-time great who couldn't win the big game. And it was like Terrell Davis's arrival onto the scene as the Hall of Famer that he would become. And just as a Denver sports fan, it just felt a little bit different. And it felt like hockey was like the new sport that showed up. The team was already good. You hadn't gone through anything with them. They just dropped in. They airdropped in, won the cup, and you were like,
look how dope we are.
Hockey is awesome. This is going to be a lot of fun. But like you'd had your heart like stomped on before as a Broncos fan. You'd had miserable moments, especially the year before with Jacksonville in Denver. And it was just such a horrible, horrible moment.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
And we forget about that because they won 2 Super Bowls in a row.
Yeah,
I
had forgotten all about the Jacksonville game.
Well, it's like that's how you forget about stuff like that. Like that's how you respond, Virginia Cavaliers fans don't care that they're the first number 1 seed to ever lose to a 16 because the very next year they won the national championship. So they're like, there's a happy ending to that horrific story.
Right.
You know, that was like the redemption, and they had, you know, the Broncos had beaten, you know, teams that they hated. You know, they got Jacksonville in the first round. They got Kansas City in the second round. Then they had to go to Pittsburgh. They had to go through Kansas City and Pittsburgh on the road. And then they had to take on the defending champs in Green Bay. It was the gauntlet of gauntlets. And they exercised every demon along the way and did everything they needed to do. And it validated John Elway as one of the top quarterbacks and NFL players of all time. And it was all of that. And it felt like the defining moment of that game for me was always Steve Atwater hitting a group of men so hard that all three of them had to leave the game.
It was amazing.
I've not been in Denver for a championship of any kind. And I just, after getting to know, as most people know on this podcast, I did grow up in Philadelphia, and the Phillies won a World Series and all, but the defining moment, kind of like what you were talking about, AJ, was the Super Bowl in 2017, and that was amazing, like best memory ever. But getting to know all of these Denver sports fans, like having people come to watch parties and tell me why they were Avs fans for so long, Nuggets fans, gone through this all. And now to also be a part of this, like when Denver wins another championship, it's going to be amazing. The DNVR is going to be popping. We're all going to be just tequila shots all around.
Back off.
Like the bar will not close that night. It'll just keep going.
It's going to be amazing. Like
just roll until it's time to serve breakfast.
Yeah, straight up.
You know it's coming. You know we all have a feeling it's around the corner. I'll touch wood. But with at least one team, so that's really exciting. And this has been a great podcast, reminiscing on some awesome Denver sports memories. We will be back next week on Friday at 2:30 p.m. So definitely check it out. Don't forget to subscribe, and also subscribe to this podcast on iTunes or Spotify, and leave us a review. And that's all I've got. Do you guys have anything else to say before we close out?
Tebow sucks. Let's go.
Okay.
My man.
Go Tebow!
I'm actually not like a big Tebow fan anymore.
You named your dog after him, so
yeah. At the time I was.
You're not a big fan of him anymore.
Just to clear it up, Hank, the guy that's on your side is holding a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle.
And I've been jealous the whole time.
And earlier you were saying you had the take of a child, and then this is the guy that springs to your defense. So just
with the slash hat.
It's not a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle.
It's
Raphael.
Raphael, yeah, we all know.
No way.
See, don't even pretend like you don't know what's up. Don't even pretend like you don't even know. Try to act like you're above it and stuff.
People don't. People didn't watch Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles when I was growing up.
For people who don't,
what is wrong with you people? I've never mind. F Tebow.
What happens after we end the podcast live? We then go in and talk about this stuff for a few hours.
Are we still on?
Yeah, we're still on. Talking about teenage, whatever. We will be hosting a watch party at the DNVR bar tomorrow. I just remembered to watch our guy Curtis Blades play the UFC. Fight in the main event. There we go.
Play with his opponent like a cat and mouse.
I think that's what he specifically said he wasn't doing. Not
Ragdoll.
So come hang out tonight. I know a lot of people are going to be there. So come chat some Denver sports with us, and we will see you guys next week. Oh, hold on.